All right, kiddos, this is your earmuffs warning. This is not an over-the-top raunchy podcast, but if you've read my books, you know I'm not afraid to use some colorful language. We might also cover some adult topics if they come up in the questions, so just be aware of that. Finally, I need to remind you that while I am a therapist, I'm not your therapist, so please don't try to use this as a substitute for professional help. Also, please don't try to sue me. Thank you. All right, what is up, ladies, gentlemen, and friends of all varieties? This is the Hardcore Self-Help Podcast, Episode 8. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Duff, a psychologist from Southern California and the author of the Hardcore Self-Help book series. And today I got an awesome interview for you guys. I'm interviewing Lindsay Istace, who is the creator of Rage Yoga. And let me read a little teeny bit from her website, which is rageyoga.com. So Rage Yoga is a practice involving stretching, positional exercises, and bad humor, with the goal of attaining good health and to become zen as fuck. More than just a practice, Rage Yoga is an attitude. So that gives you a little flavor of what she's all about. It was a really good interview, and I want to talk a little bit more about it. But first, I want to shout out a few people who have left iTunes reviews. So I just want to say thank you to Chelsea A19, Justin Cross, Shakita, Slippery Salamander, Nismo Docta, and Pop CJ. Thank you guys so much for leaving those reviews. Very helpful. Greatly appreciated. Any of you guys want to leave a review as well, I will shout you out and you'll have my eternal gratitude. But yeah, back to the interview. It was a really good interview. She talks about where she came up with the idea of Rage Yoga, what period of her life kind of led to it becoming something, where it's going now and in the future, and how you can integrate concepts from Rage Yoga into your everyday life. Just to point out, there's a little bit of Skype weirdness at the beginning of the interview that does clear up. She's a little bit garbled just because our connection wasn't great to start off with, but it gets quite a bit better from there, and it's definitely a worthwhile interview. So hope that you enjoy it, and here is Lindsay. All right, everybody. So I am here over Skype with Lindsay Istace, the creator of Rage Yoga, which is this super awesome form of yoga. You've probably seen it online through social media. It kind of has blown up recently. That's the yoga where you drink beer, you're allowed to say fuck, you listen to metal. It's totally awesome. So Lindsay, thank you for coming on the show and talking to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So first off, tell me a little bit about just you, like where you're located, what's going on in your life right now. Is this your main gig, or tell me a little bit more about you?
Well, I am based in Calgary, Alberta. For the past 5 years, I've been a self-supporting variety entertainer. So I do a lot of kind of weird circusy art things. I practice contortion and fire eating, contact juggling. I learned how to swallow swords in October. So I've been doing that for about 5 years. And now I would say that Rage Yoga is more my full-time gig. I definitely still am performing, but I wanted to work on a new project, so I kind of started going the yoga route.
So you got into performing, what did you call it? Like variety performing?
Yeah.
How did you get into that in the first place?
Well, how did I get into that? That's a very good question. Long story short, I fell in love with it while I was backpacking. Back when I was like 18, I just had started contact juggling, and again, long story short, I ended up getting stranded in Vancouver, and I had no money and I had nowhere to go, and so I had like 18 cents a ball and a tambourine. So I just put my 18 cents in my tambourine and started contact juggling, and I kind of just fell in love with being that little bit of magic in someone's day, and it was a tiny moment that ended up becoming the seed of what became a career.
So like you got the sort of high off of people stopping, watching you, being kind of captivated in that moment.
I guess so. It was just kind of cool to suspend reality for a couple seconds for somebody. Like an unsuspecting stranger would just kind of stop on their lunch break and be like, whoa,
yeah,
that's really cool. You know, it's pretty awesome to be that for somebody.
What were you doing with your life before that point?
Before I was contact juggling on the streets of Vancouver at 18?
Yeah. Okay, so that was 18, so I guess that was school and stuff like that. Did you,
before that, not much.
what did you think, like when you pictured you at this age, what did you picture back then before you kind of started this different route?
a really good question. For the longest time, all the way up until I was about 16, I actually had this dream about being a dentist.
Okay, that's a little different.
I know, that's what I wanted to be so badly. I had everything planned out, and then everything just kind of, became a shit show, and I, kind of ended up running away and joining the circus. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, in your own way. That's
In
kind
my
of it's kind of cool though, because I think a lot of what you're doing is this idea of blending kind of like the chaos with the peace of everything. So you kind of found your own peace in your own chaos, I think.
Absolutely.
So at what point did the what became eventually Rage Yoga, like where were the seeds of that kind of planted?
Well, I've had my own practice for something like 5 years. I think I was about 19 when I decided I wanted to be a contortionist.
Hmm.
And so I actually kind of started at ass backwards. So I started in the world of contortion. And
Yeah.
it really became much more yogic. Everything that I fell in love with in contortion is a lot of like the more like almost borderline spiritual qualities that people like about, practicing Western yoga.
Mm.
Connecting to something higher, building your mind-body connection, finding like a strong and peaceful place within yourself. And these are things that I started really learning through contortion. And yeah, I always kind of wanted to share this with people, but teaching contortion to people it's not really accessible the same way that yoga is.
Oh, sure.
Contortion's a scary word, and the world is a little exclusive too. Training's very expensive. They rarely take anybody above the age of like 15.
I bet.
Yeah. So starting at 19 was kind of like swimming upstream for sure. I didn't even realize how much work it was going to be when I decided to do it. But yeah, so that's kind of how my journey into yoga began. But
Right.
the actual seeds for Rage Yoga itself came through a really painful breakup of a long-term relationship. It was about, 3.5 years. We were engaged for one of them. And then when that went south, it was just like my entire world was upside down and I was angry and hurt and confused. And yeah, suddenly my home practice became a lot more sweary.
Mm. So just your normal yoga practice that you were doing with people every week, it just kind of crept in there because that's where you were at that point.
Well, just my home practice,
Okay.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was absolutely a wreck. Like, I just didn't leave my apartment. I, drank a lot of boxed wine, and I'm pretty sure I just never changed out of my giraffe onesie. Like,
Yeah.
and I just moved into my apartment building, too, so I'm pretty sure all my neighbors were just like, whoa,
Yeah.
who let this person in the building?
How long was that period for you? I mean, it sounds like you were, maybe actually a bit depressed and maybe a bit above the normal sort of breakup blues, so to speak.
Yeah, it was it was about like a month of, I would just call it hell. It was, yeah, not great. But my practice is really what ended up getting me through that.
Tell me about that.
Well, combining the practice with the emotional release ended up being a transformational thing for me. Like, to be able to create a safe space where I was able to let go of these negative emotions and use them in a positive and constructive way rather than allowing them to just tear me apart.
Yeah. So paint me a picture. What did that look like at home by yourself when you were able to kind of get that release for yourself?
Well, it probably wasn't pretty. I'll tell you
That's
that
okay.
much. And once again, I'm sure my neighbors were just like, what is happening in that apartment? Unit 20 is crazy. What would that look like exactly? A lot of like, like a lot of yoga, there's a lot of breath control.
Hmm.
A lot of like, breathing in, and then once in a while you'll do like the really loud exhale. Suddenly those became like just really loud fuck words.
Hmm.
And I don't know.
I think it makes a lot of sense though. I mean, there's sometimes you want to breathe in and sometimes you want to breathe in and be like, God damn it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just kind of like have to let everything out, and then sometimes it comes out in expletives, and sometimes it just comes out in, just loud, incoherent noises. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense, but, just kind of like letting things out and then almost relaxing further into a pose because you've just kind of let it all this tension. And so you feel better after. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I do think it's super cool and it's unique. I like that because there's we tend to separate out the two very much. Like the whole release, we think of more like running hard or like doing a martial arts class or something that's explosive. And then we think of yoga as a completely, passive. Obviously it takes work and stuff like that, but it's just a different feel. And you're not exactly, fighting with your yoga, but you're letting it out and then letting that sink you deeper, like you said.
Absolutely. I find that one of the things that had really turned me off from a lot of conventional classes is that you you would walk in and we're human, right? So we have a million thoughts going in our head all the time, or at least I do, right? And some of them are not exactly happy. Like maybe you had a really stressful day. Maybe you had like a really crappy interaction, like road rage moment, or maybe you had like a really passive aggressive coworker, maybe like these little things that just kind of eat at the corners of your mind. And I've never really been able to just like make it go away. Like I can't just sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and be peaceful and shit. You know? Sometimes I actually do meditation with myself where I kind of think of myself as more like the eye of the storm. So I think about all these thoughts as being almost like a hurricane around me, and I am effortlessly grounded and centered in the middle of this, and they kind of just whirl around me, and that's okay because I'm centered. And then eventually you realize that you actually have control over the storm, and then you just will it to go away. But it takes a little bit of work. You can't just like will it to go away. You have to like validate these thoughts and like allow them to be before you can move past them.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a very mindful way of being, but it's kind of mindfulness without the fluff, I think. You kind of arrived at it in a very organic way.
Thank you.
And I really like that imagery of being the eye of the storm. And it's true, you know, when you have thoughts that you don't, you know, we tend to judge our thoughts very harshly. So we have a thought, we don't like it, so we try to push it away. But the more you fight against it, the bigger it gets oftentimes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like that whole don't think of a blue elephant thing. And then I'm like, no, seriously, don't think of blue elephant. Just don't do it. And then it's like bigger and bigger and bigger.
Why are you thinking of the blue elephant?
Yeah. So that's cool. How did that transition, or when did you think that maybe this is something that you wanted to share?
All right, so this is where things get kind of interesting. So let's just picture, you know, the not really happy month of living in a giraffe onesie, drinking box wine, and practicing rage yoga in my basement.
Yeah,
it's not pretty. And I start joking about my quote unquote rage practice over Facebook. I was just like, yeah, you know, tonight I kind of just want to like not be happy. I'm kind of miserable, but instead I'm gonna stretch. I'm gonna rage stretch. And a friend was just like, hey, I could picture you teaching rage yoga. That seems like that would be a really great idea. And it started off as a joke. Just like, oh, that would be quite funny. And then it got booked for a one-off workshop at a festival, and it went over really well. And then it went over so well that it got booked for another event, and it went over really well there. And it kind of went from being a joke to there actually being something there. A lot of people were connecting with it. A lot of people were asking about when I was going to have regular classes. And that's when I decided to move forward with just having a couple of recurring weekday classes here in Calgary.
Why do people connect with it? Like what did people say to you after the first few sessions that you did?
Well, that whole not really being able to just suddenly, bam, be peaceful, turns out that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
These are very common thoughts. A lot of people are very intimidated by the typical yoga studio atmosphere, and so by creating this approachable route, I ended up attracting a lot of people who had been either really turned off by previous yoga practices or who had never even been able to actually bring themselves to go to one because they were just intimidated by it. And it's funny how it's a really big turnoff for a lot of people. Like as soon as you say like, yeah, you know, there's like some screaming, yelling, laughing, inappropriate jokes, there's a lot of people who just turn right off. But there's a lot of people who like that's attractive for them. So they end up going out and they've never done it before. So like you get a lot of people who've never been to a yoga class trying out rage yoga. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And I'll take a guess here, but in my experience, kind of doing a similar sort of feel in a different field, I imagine that, you know, thinking about rage yoga as a thing, you sort of make your own mental image of who this person is. But my guess is that in reality, there's a lot of different people that resonate with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Were you surprised by like the variety of people that were into it?
I was, you know, for some reason I expected a lot of more like young 20 kind of thing, like a lot of university students, because you know you're combining beer with yoga in our live classes, and I just kind of figured university students, well, they'll love that. But we get everybody. You know, we get everybody from people who have, you know, just turned 18 all the way to we've had people like in their 50s come out. You know, we get men, we get women, we get working professionals, we get students, we get everyone. And it's really cool. Like the one thing that they have in common is that they're just alternative, open-minded people. And
tired of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that I've been really surprised in my own work to see people level so much over that there's just, we're fed so much bullshit in good ways and in bad ways, right? Some ways have good intentions, some ways, don't. But people are tired of figuring stuff out, and they just want to kind of do something.
Mm.
They want to just kind of roll with it, and it sounds like you created a really cool way to do that. So tell me, like, what is a rage yoga class now look like?
Well, I think the one thing that a lot of people don't expect from rage yoga, just because of the name, is how much laughter there actually is in our classes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you get a group of people together. You throw a couple of what I like to call fist unicorns on some different poses. You get lots of yelling, you get lots of like silly jokes and stuff. But
wait. You throw a what?
I like to call the middle finger fist unicorn.
That's amazing.
I just think it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. But yeah, what people don't expect is for there to be as much laughter as there is. But when you create those spaces, to allow yourself to express a lot of things that you're bottling up, it's awesome how you can go from being like really tense and stressed out to laughing at yourself really quick. So people don't really expect that. And what we're finding in our live classes here is that we do have a pretty continuous rotation of new people. Absolutely. Like lots of people are coming and checking it out, but we also do have like a pretty strong core of regulars. And there's a lot of people making friends. Like we're building a little community of alternative yoga badasses here, and it's really cool to watch.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Do you guys have like a name for yourselves, or do you call, your students something in particular?
I call them lots of names.
Yeah, I bet.
I like to refer to them as my community of alternative yoga badasses.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm writing emails, I'll just refer to them as different like flattering insults, like "How you doing, majestic assholes?"
Yep. You beautiful fucking unicorns.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, take me back to like when you had your first workshops till now. How long has that been?
Well, the workshops itself, like the very first workshop at a festival was, I believe, June last year.
Wow.
And then the first live class was here January 4th.
Okay, so not too long ago. This has been a quick roll. How is it going?
So far, so good. Absolutely no complaints. We successfully wrapped up a Kickstarter about 3 weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to that. That was so that we can make online classes. So I'm buying things like a new computer and camera and all of that jazz, so I can make awesome online rage yoga courses, and I can share them with anybody with an internet connection. Because I'm getting a lot of people who, unfortunately can't teleport.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
they want to get the classes, and I feel like the online route's the best way to go.
Absolutely. A lot of my listenership is from, the US and UK and stuff like that. So obviously, unless they're in the area, they're not going to be able to hit you up, but I'm sure a lot of them are going to want to.
Then check out the online classes.
What is that going to be like? So what is a online like yoga class, or, I guess a rage yoga class? I don't even know what a regular yoga class would look like online, but what does it look like?
Well, right now I'm working on 2 different 6-week online courses. One of them is called Ferocious Foundations, and that is just more of a well-rounded yoga course to improve mobility and strength balance, all that jazz, and to give people the foundations of a strong at-home practice. And then the other one is Bendy and Badass, and that one's aimed more specifically at gaining real measurable flexibility results.
Yeah, well, you should be an expert in that, right?
Yeah, so that's the one where, like, if you really want to like start working on your back bend or get the splits, et cetera, then that's the one to go.
That's so cool. What do you focus on, without obviously giving away all the secrets, but what does it mean to have a good home practice for rage yoga?
Well, I think it's the same as anything. Like if having a strong at-home yoga practice, it's the same with rage yoga. The only difference is that, rage yoga, it's not a different like style of yoga, it's just a different attitude. But a solid at-home practice would look like, trying to actually make time to practice at least every second day, to kind of start taking that attitude of, yoga and mindfulness off of the mat too. So starting to let the benefits seep into other parts of your life. That's what that is.
Have you seen an improvement, like for some of your recurring students? Have you seen that happening for them, taking some of these things off the mat, like you said?
I believe so. I've definitely, like, our students tend to walk out a little bit taller, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
seeing a lot more like growing confidence of people like in specific yoga poses. People starting to really work on their headstand, or, I had a student the other day who was just like, guess what? Like, what? I can touch my toes now.
That's awesome.
She was so excited, and it was awesome. So, I mean, nobody's, writing me essays about like how it's changing their day-to-day life, but I'm definitely seeing, improved mobility, improved confidence, all of that jazz, and that's really rewarding to be part of.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool things, you strip away so much of the pretense and the fluff, and you really focus on the little victories. And so stuff like that is the stuff you want to be hearing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What advice would you have for people to integrate, whether or not it's yoga, but to integrate some of this idea of letting it out in this way? How could they do that in their life? Say they're going through a breakup like you were. What would you say to them?
That's a good question.
Drop a big one on you. It's been 20 minutes, so I might as well throw one at you.
Well, I would say that if you want to use like the Rage Yoga approach in your at-home practice, I would absolutely recommend working it into your breath. Using that exhale to actually let out things that you might be bottling, and to just create a safe space where you can let the things out that you may or may not be bottling.
When you're doing it, are you like just letting out kind of exclamations, or are you actually kind of talking a little bit to yourself, like, or to the universe? What are you actually doing?
I don't know about necessarily talking to yourself. I feel like the conversation mostly happens in your head.
Yeah. Okay.
But the words that leave my mouth are most often just F-bombs.
Yeah.
F-bombs with different intent, but
sure.
F-bombs nonetheless.
There's a lot of different inflections to that.
That's true.
Yeah. It's one of the most versatile words I've found.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what effects has this had on your life, if you don't mind me asking? Like, this has been a whirlwind, right? How have things changed for you?
Since Rage Yoga has launched?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just over the past, year or two, as this has become something that helped you personally, and then became something that you're helping other people with, what's your personal arc been like?
My personal which?
Just your personal, I don't know, development, or what have things been like? How have things changed for you?
Well, my email is definitely a lot more overwhelming than it used to be. Otherwise, it's actually been really empowering. Like I said, it's been rewarding to be a part of building a really awesome community, and to be a part of really positive change in some people's lives, and to see that firsthand. It's been empowering for me in the way that I'm now able to say no to performance gigs that I don't want to do. And that I actually have this project that is a heart project that's helping other people, and it's a really cool feeling.
Is there one thing that I talk about a lot for myself is, my books have let me be more selective about the quote real work that I do. That kind of sounds like what you're talking about, where you don't necessarily have to take these gigs that you may or may not want to take to put food on the table, because there's been a little bit of you're helping on a broader scale.
Absolutely. One of the reasons that Rage Yoga ended up becoming a thing so fast is I actually had a pretty traumatic gig. The lady who booked me was just crazy. She's just like a textbook sociopath. We're talking like she would send me upwards of 10 emails a day for about 3 weeks leading up to the first gig. She was just super micromanaging, changed her mind constantly, and like working with her drove me to tears multiple times.
Wow.
It was painful, and it really just kind of felt like, I don't know, but I had to do it. It did not feel good. It kind of, in a weird way, felt like I was selling my body. Because,
sure.
Dance monkey, do the thing. We got a contract. You got to do the thing. And it was so traumatizing. It was just, I need to do something to put the power back in my own hands.
Mm-hmm. I totally see what you mean. You're putting like you said, putting your body out there, like the object that's being used is your body. That's the thing that's entertaining. That's the thing that's providing, excitement and stuff. And then you're not happy because of the way the circumstances are. So you're putting your body out there. You're, literally bending to somebody's will, and then you're not happy about it. So it makes you ask, like, what the hell am I doing this for?
Absolutely. Like, there were a lot of moments where I just felt super degraded working with her. And it was a painful experience. So, like I said, I wanted to put the power back in my own hands. And I'm super happy to say that a little while ago, she reached out to me to see if I wanted to work with her again. And I had so much rage yoga stuff going on that I just said no.
That's so cool.
A really cool moment for me. I did a happy dance, not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Did you do a little finger unicorn?
Fist unicorn.
Yeah, fist unicorn. That's awesome. And I mean, that must have felt like almost like a proof of concept. Like this is a different stage for you now to be able to say no to that.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Well, I'm really happy for you. I'm proud of you for doing that. I mean, there's so many different ways that people are able to rise above crap like that, and you found such a unique way, and it's always more rewarding when your own journey extends out to be able to help others. I hope that as you continue through this, you find people that are using your techniques and rage yoga to overcome their own version of that.
I hope so. I haven't even started the online classes yet, but I have actually gotten thank you emails from around the world, like literally around the world, and it's really rewarding.
What are they saying? What are the thank you? What are the thank you emails talking about?
I get a lot of people who are sharing their personal stories with me, where they're going through a breakup, they're going through a divorce, their boyfriend's in the military and going out into the field for a really long time, or getting posted in a different city. Getting people who have similar and relatable stories to my own, thanking me and saying that they can't wait for these online classes because they feel like they need something like this in their life. And it's really cool. I've also gotten a lot of yoga teachers actually writing me to say that they are just really glad that there's somebody kind of doing this different approach to yoga. Mm-hmm. That they'd love to be able to teach this style because they've kind of like lost their love of teaching conventional yoga and they want to try something different. It's been really cool. I've also gotten some angry emails too, but
I was going to ask about that. Have you gotten some backlash?
Definitely not a heck of a lot. Like in my email inbox, definitely much more weighted towards the positive. But there are absolutely some people who are not super pumped about the rage yoga. That's okay.
Did you think about that at all when you were starting to, actually make legit classes and things like that? That there might be people who are, feeling threatened by that or feeling like you're, I don't know, adulterating the practice.
Oh, absolutely. I think that we expect the worst anytime that we create anything and put it out into the world. So I expected the backlash to actually be significantly worse than it has been. So that's been pretty cool.
How were you able to do it anyway? Like even though you were kind of a little bit worried about that?
One of my mottos is one foot in front of the other and don't look down. And that was exactly it. It was just putting one foot in front of the other and just taking baby steps at a time, not looking down and just pushing forward. Just keeping your head down and making it happen.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of good little mantras. I like that. Between the eye of the storm, one foot in front of the other, don't look down. And I think it's a natural fit for you to be teaching other people. So I'm glad that you're out there in the world doing this.
Thank you.
So aside from the online courses, is there anything else that's coming up for you that's going to be happening? Teaching other instructors, anything like that?
Oh my goodness, I have so many plans.
Yeah. Any ideas you want to share?
Well, world domination, obviously. No, I'm kidding. But 2017, we are going to be launching some teacher training. I don't know exactly when or what that will look like, but it won't be necessarily like a 200-hour teacher certification course. We would require that people already have their certification. This would just be more like a module that you would add on in order to learn some of the rage yoga philosophies and how to teach this kind of approach.
Oh, right.
So that'd be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of that's going to really be focused on helping people find their own personal teaching style, like find their own voice, find their own taste, really, and to bring that together in like a rage yoga way. So I think it's really cool.
Have you? Yeah, that you actually bring up something else. I want to wrap up pretty soon here, but this idea came to mind that I imagine there's some people that come to the class and at first are like a little apprehensive about like how do I make this my own? Like, I don't say fuck on a regular basis in my real life. Like, how do I translate this to yoga? Are there some people that are kind of a little nervous at first?
I think that most people that go into any yoga class are nervous at first. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of the people when they come to Rage Yoga, it's probably the nerves are more often coming from the fact that they've read an article about it and they don't quite know what to expect,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So they're almost waiting for me to just be like this crazy, angry rage machine or something.
Yeah.
Or they're just waiting for, I don't know, the bar to be like super dingy and terrible. I don't know. People speculate, right?
Yeah.
So they come in not quite knowing what to look forward to. But yeah, it's been good.
That's awesome. Well, if people want to follow along with what you're doing, for instance, if they want to be updated about the course that's coming out later, or just keeping up with you in general, how can they do that?
Absolutely. We are on Twitter. We're on Facebook. You can check us out at rageyoga.com. And
And
yeah.
is it just at Rage Yoga on Twitter and Facebook.com/Rage Yoga?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And do you have an email list or anything like that for people that want to get updated?
Absolutely. Yeah. For anybody who wants to join the email list, it's probably like the best way to stay up with everything Rage Yoga.
Okay.
And you can sign up on the website.
All right. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. I think you're doing really great things, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Congrats on doing the online course and the Kickstarter. Really hope it goes well for you.
Thanks.
All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview as much as I enjoyed conducting it. Lindsay, if you're listening, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really excited for where things are going right now for you, and I can't wait to see what things become in the next year here. It's very, very exciting. Please check out rageyoga.com and follow at Rage Yoga on Twitter. And then for us, for my show, if you guys want to send in questions for the next episode or a future episode, please do so at Duff the Psych on Twitter or through email, duffthepsych@gmail.com. And I will see you guys for the next one. Bye.